Hello, beautiful people. The countdown. Welcome to these weekly lives. So, have you ever had one of those days where you're just so uncomfortable and you kind of don't really want to show up for anything? Well, it's interesting that we put this one on today because I'm having one of those days. And in the past, what I would have done was been like, oh, I got to reschedule, and I don't want to show up and do all of that. And what I noticed was that just kept me in a continuous state of being trapped. And so I know I'm not the only one with this one, where we have this idea that in order to create freedom, we have to create separation. So it's when you're uncomfortable, or when you're in a lot of judgment of yourself, or when you don't feel enough, or when things aren't going your way that you think they should be going, we tend to create a separation from it, thinking that that's the way to create freedom, when it's not. It's a thing that actually keeps us trapped. And so let's have a bit of a conversation today and see where we go with this, because a lot of you have probably heard me talk about my struggles with alcoholism. And then more recently, in the last 2.5 years, my journey with sobriety. And it's been interesting, because a lot of days I feel like I'm just beginning with it. Because for me, true sobriety is a complete shift, a complete change in the track that you're creating your life as, and also a lifelong healing process. Like, it's not, I remember early on in my sobriety, I would be, like, Jesus Christ, can this just be done? Can I be sober already? Can this all just go away? And again, trying to get away from it, thinking that that was my freedom from what I decided was a problem, it kept me trapped in it. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of tools and a few of the things that I'm using at the moment that have been so helpful. Some of the tools, some of the awarenesses that I've been having, because with that, if you're somebody who's been highly sensitive your whole life, like just aware of everyone you come into contact with, you're aware of their universe, you're aware of everything that you try not to be aware of. You're aware of basically the world around you because you're connected to the world around you. And so what I did so much of my life was I tried to create this separate identity, or many different personalities, in order to cope with my awareness, rather than acknowledge that I am aware. So one of the things we've actually been talking about recently in Access, which has been so helpful, is this topic of autonomy, which is basically, autonomy is about creating yourself as a singular item, as a separate universe. And once again, what that does is it doesn't allow you any receiving. So with that, you have to be in a constant state of judgment of yourself to create the separation. You have to be in a constant state of judgment of the world around you. No source for freedom. So everything that brings up, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, online, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyond. So in looking at that, in looking at what freedom is not, what is freedom for you? And what gives you a sense of freedom? So what I'm looking at, and what I've been looking at in my world lately, is knowing that true freedom comes from no separation. Because if you look at that, like anything that you have to separate from, you're not free of. We think we're free of it, but in order to stay separate from it, you have to be in a constant state of judgment. Again, so everything that is, I'm going to add a few things in here. All the structures of autonomy, all the prismatic prisons of judgment, I'll get to that part, and all the personalities creating that, we destroy and uncreate it all. Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, millions. Okay, so if you're jumping on here and you're like, haven't heard of Access or the clearing statement, hi, don't worry about it. If you're like, what's that crazy bunch of words? If you want more info on that, you can check out theclearingstatement.com. Stella, you're amazing behind the scenes, putting that up there. And then basically, A few things with access and the way that it works is access is about empowering you to know that you know. Okay. And also it's about getting you to live from a space of question, because any judgment that we have of ourselves or anyone or anything around us keeps us trapped. This is the source for no freedom. So in getting to that, you're like, man, like, yeah, no judgment. That sounds great. But if we look at that with the uncomfort of freedom, how uncomfortable would you have to be willing to be in order to have no judgment? Everything that brings up times a godzillion. Again, all the personalities, all the prismatic prisons of judgment, and all the structures of autonomy we destroy and uncreate. Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys, perverts, millions. Now, I didn't have I didn't have a plan on bringing those things up, but it's interesting in starting a conversation like this, because in walking through this myself at the moment, I don't really know how to have it without adding these things in here that I use to get free of it. And so with this, so first of all, personalities. Personalities is basically what you create in any situation that you're not present in. Basically, it's the way that you substitute being. Okay. And so if you find yourself being triggered by something, if you find yourself separating from something, if you find yourself in judgment of something, then would you choose that as a being? You're like, oh my goodness, no, as a being, I'm just this melty, just wonderfulness. And I just want to be a contribution. I just want to be able to show up in the world and be me. That's you. And we all have a sense of that whenever we get a sense of that. My tip on this part, please choose more of that. Please choose more of what gives you that space of you as a being, but recognize as you do that. Here's how it shows up for me is as you kind of make that demand and you start looking at it, you're just like, you know what, this isn't enough. I would really like to be greater. I would, and not greater, again, not greater based on judgment, because how much of your life have you done that thing of like, yeah, I really want to be a better person, or I want to be greater, or I want to be, I just want to be something different in the world. So as a way to get to that based on what you've learned greater is, you have to go into judgment of what you're not great at and where you're not great, as if that's going to be the freedom that will get you there. It doesn't work because it keeps you once again trapped. Everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. So from this awareness, what if you could have an awareness of you would like to be greater? You know, I'd just like to be more. I'd like to be more of a contribution. I'd like to be more of that, that yummy, that melty, that wonderful energy that I know I am and that I've had access to throughout my life, but sporadically. It comes in instances rather than being something that I can sustainably live as. So the thing that I was going to get to with that is what I've noticed in my world is when you make a demand like that, or have an awareness of what you would like to choose beyond what you've been choosing, all of these things start showing up where you haven't been choosing it. What if you could be an allowance of that? Oh, cool. Here's another area that I'm doing personality. Here's another area that I haven't been present or I haven't been being me. So question you can ask with that is this personality or is this being? Oh man, it's total personality. Okay. Everything that is, destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. The next part with this in talking about judgment, because like I said, you could look at that and go, yeah, I'd love to be free of judgment. But if you're free of judgment, when you have used judgment as the source for connection, how do you connect with people without judgment? Completely different space. And I had this, I was having a conversation with Gary Douglas yesterday, the founder of Access Consciousness. And because I've been looking at all of these things in my life, and one of the things that I was talking to him about was friendship. And he asked me a question that I found really interesting. He was like, let me ask you this. Do you have any idea what it is to truly create a friendship? And I was like, no fucking clue. And I realized in that you ever know when you're around somebody and they have a lot less judgment or they have no judgment, that it's trying to find any connection point is not possible. Therefore, it's something we tend to separate from the things that have no judgment. Everything that is times a godzillion. Again, all the personalities, prismatic prisms of judgment, all the structures of autonomy, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyond. Wow, that's interesting in saying that, because I didn't see it like that. Also, with how much we do that is we'll separate from that which has no judgment based on having, well, you could put based on, but it's not even really this. It's a choice that we make, but based on having no idea how to connect to it. My question with that is, how much do you have to separate from your being because it has no judgment? Everything that is times a godzillion, when you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. So this thing with the prismatic prisms of judgment, basically, you don't really have to. The part of this that's relevant is that anytime you have a judgment, it locks you into a prison. You can't receive anything that doesn't match it. It basically stops receiving. And so this is where, how much more comfortable is it to have the judgments so that you can, so that you can basically you can put something in a box based on receiving, so that based on judgment, so then you know what receiving is with it. So if you're in a relationship, for example, then you can have judgments of the person that tell you who they are, so that you know how close they are, so that you know how much you can or cannot receive from them based on the judgment. What would it be like to be with people and be in relationship with people, be in friendship with people, have people in your life that you had no judgment on? Everything that brings up times a godzillion. And also everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive that and ask for it, will you destroy and uncreate it? Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. One of the things with just being really uncomfortable at the moment is seeing these different areas where, for myself, I know I'm choosing less than everything I am, but it's been such an interesting thing for me to be able to navigate that without going into the personality and the prismatic prison of judgment of, now I'm less than because I have this limitation. What if you could look at anything that you've been choosing, anything that you've created yourself as, with no judgment? And what if that began to be the true source for freedom for you, was having the willingness to have anything show up, the good, the bad, and the ugly, without judgment. So everything that doesn't allow that for you, everything that doesn't allow you to recognize that that's a choice and to choose it, will you destroy and uncreate it? Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. So, so many things. I had like 8 billion things that I desired to talk to you guys about before I started this. And then as it works, as you begin to talk and as you begin to kind of explore something like this, that all goes away. But that's also how much more freedom would you have access to if you allowed yourself to show up in each moment with no need for a definition of the next. Uncomfortable, right? Like, to actually be able to show up and be present and not have to have an answer. Know that you can be a question and allow the universe to actually contribute to the next step in your journey, the next step on your path, without having to define it to get there. So again, everything that brings up, everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive that, and also all the stuff, personalities, prismatic prisons of judgment, structures of autonomy, all the crap, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. I love that question. How is it to be around someone that has no judgment of you? It is intense to me. I wonder if that's a personality that I have created. Yeah. So is it? And that's the moment that you want to ask that, personality or being. And you go, holy shit, total personality. Because would I create an intensity in order to separate from this person based on the uncomfort of no judgment? Or would I just be present with it? So everything that is times a godzillion. Because it's one thing to, with something like that, see, we tend to have certain things also that, I'm trying to think of an example for myself, so many. But we tend to have things also, like you could catch these things in the moment, personality or being. But I found so many things that there's another part to this that we talk about called prime and primary personalities, which is basically like I could look at my alcoholism, among many other things, as prime and primary personality. It's who I decided I was. And I remember, I remember 3+ years ago, when it got really bad, the thought of what I would have to do to change it, and it was more so that I decided it was unchangeable. The thought of what I would have to do to change it made me more so want to give up rather than change it. So how many things like that do you have in your life where you've just kind of decided that it must be you, or decided that it's hopeless, or decided that it's unchangeable, because in order to change it, you would rather give up than actually change it? Everything that is times a godzillion, all the prime and primary personalities creating that, will you destroy and create it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Again, if you're listening to this and you haven't really done much access or heard of access, and you're kind of like, what the fuck, but it makes you lighter, go with the lightness, okay? And see, because have I found over the years that the greatest change, and the change that comes with most ease, comes from a space of never looking the way you think it's going to. And it really is this non-linear, non-cognitive exploration of possibilities. And the way you get to that is, well, you get to it by showing up. You get to it by getting out of judgment. You get to it by getting way happier. You get to it by recognizing that the only possibility that any of us have to contributing to changing the world and creating change in the world is by changing ourselves. And so what would that be like for you? And it's, so everything that brings up, everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive it, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. So, let me ask this as a question, because it's something that I've been looking at for myself and see how it kind of lands in your world. How much energy do you put into, and how much judgment of you do you have in order to avoid future? Everything that is, you're like, blah. Everything that is times a godzillion, all the personalities, all the primary personalities, all the structures of autonomy, all of it. Everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it. Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pop, online, shorts, boys, povas, millions. Also, if you're on this and you're like, oh man, I don't know what any of this prismatic shit is that you're talking about, but it's kind of sounds cool and it's matching an energy of what I've been choosing in my life, and I'd really like to get free of this. How many of you know you would like to be greater? And then, like I said, use judgment as a way of never getting there. Everything that is times the godzillion. And the thing I wanted to add with that is there's so much. Dr. Dane here just did a thing for $22 called Restoring Hope. He's also done the what do you call it? Help. Brain dead. The ones that he did, a year ago. Reset 1 and Reset 2, where so much of this stuff has gone into in depth energetically. I'm also going to be doing these lives every week, just as a commitment to what I would like to see as different in the world, but also what I know that I'm going to have to be willing to be in order to get there. That I also have a Telegram chat, many Telegram chats in a lot of languages, but you guys obviously speak English. You're listening to me right now, where I'm going to be doing lives every Wednesday. We did the first one last week. I'll be doing lives in there too, and kind of just to the best of my ability, walking you through the stuff that comes up for all of us. And so with a topic like this, recognizing that the true source for freedom is recognizing that you have choice with everything. And so in that, if you, and man, is it a big topic, choice with everything. Well, how does that look? Well, how do you choose to, what would you have to acknowledge about the choices that you make, that if you would acknowledge it, would allow you to change it and change the world around you? Everything that is, everything that doesn't allow you. Thank you so much for putting all that in there. Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Oh, the other thing that I actually did it this morning, and I'd been avoiding it. Actually, I've done it many times over the years, but not from this different space that I'm doing my best to walk into and through at the moment. Is if you could have anything as the ideal life in 10 years, what would that be? And write it down. And you don't have to be you don't have to write 800 pages on it. Like I wrote 8 things this morning, and I already noticed about at least 100 times, just in subtle choices that I made with my awareness, I noticed where they didn't match the energy of the future that I'm asking for. So what you do with that is, create your list. If that's the way that you do it, I would highly suggest that. I'm old school. I love doing things on pen and paper. Create your list of, 8 things, 10 things, 12 things, whatever. Get a sense of what it would be like to have your life be like that. Get a sense energetically of you living from that space, you living with that as your life, and then pull energy into it. Pull energy into it from all over the universe. Let trickles of that energy go out. Find anyone that can help make that a reality. And then also start choosing anything that matches it. What I do too is I recognize, like I said, is where I'm choosing things that don't match that energy, where I'm choosing to judge, or where I'm choosing to separate, or where I'm choosing to, do any of the things that basically when I'm choosing personality, but let's just simplify it. When I'm choosing personality. And so with that, recognize, wait a minute, if I keep choosing this, I'm not going to get to that future. The only way I'm going to get to that future is by choosing what matches it. So everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive that for you, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. And the thing that kind of matches this is, I remember early on in my sobriety, I got a sponsor. It was maybe the first day. I think it was the first day that I did a lot of AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous. And, I got myself a sponsor. And this guy, to put it politely, was an asshole. But I needed a sponsor who was an asshole. And one of the things that he would talk to me about was, he was like, you need to start becoming accountable. And you need to start becoming accountable for your choices and accountable for your actions and accountable for how you're showing up. And he would have me call him every day and, tell him what was going on, what was up in my world, how I'd been dealing with things, all of that stuff. And I'm so grateful for so many of those things early on in my sobriety, because that one thing also showed me where I was uncommitted to a lot of the things that I was choosing. So how many of you avoid the future? How many of you avoid the future because backwards? How many of you avoid the future as a way of avoiding commitment to you? Everything that is, not me. Yeah, everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and create it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, pobads, and beyonds. Because that was such a helpful part with the accountability, because I recognized where I was so uncommitted to myself, where I would say one thing and do another. So I would avoid looking at the future, because if I was to look at the future I truly desire, of, some of the one of the things that I had in my list when I wrote it out this morning was to trust and honor myself, to like myself that much that I have no need for validation from anyone or anything in order for me to be it. And so that has an energy to it for me. And so, but in the past, I wouldn't even look at something like that, because in order to look at it, I would have to look at where I'm not being it and choose something different in order to be committed to it. Anyone else? Everything that is times a godzillion. And everywhere also that everywhere you haven't acknowledged that commitment to you is a choice, and a choice you could make right now. Everything that is, where you destroy all the stuff with that, where you destroy and uncreate it. Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, pobads, and beyonds. So check that out, write it down, do that part if that sounds like it could be a contribution. Thank you all for being here. I won't keep you for too much longer. I just would like to... thank you all, because you just made me realize the one thing that was missing on my list. One of the things that I have avoided my whole life, and I have begun to get a lot more of an awareness of this, is the difference that I am. I don't know about you guys, but I have fucking tried my hardest to be the round peg fitting in the square hole. Round pegs don't fit in square holes, but if you have a big enough hammer, you could get it in there. Just, figure that shit out. But that's the see, Chris, the other thing for me is, even being here with you guys now, is being aware of an energy of contribution, not having too much of a sense of how I can contribute that with words. So actually allowing myself to show up and just be present, even if that means being silent. What if you could begin to allow yourself to be the difference that you are, no matter how the world sees it? Everything that is, everything that doesn't allow it, all the personalities, all the prismatic prisons of judgment, all the structures of autonomy, all the rest of it, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. Cool. So somebody said, my goodness, Brendon, thank you for that. Just realized that after personalities, I wasn't perceiving the new future that is showing up. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons that we choose it, so that you don't have to perceive the future that you can create. See, with personalities, you can just go through life on autopilot, but without it, you actually have to be willing to be present with the choices you make, knowing that the choices you make are what creates the future. And so let me actually offer something else with this, that, see, because you can do personalities or being, pock and pod the personalities, get the awareness, recognize that you're choosing it, but tap into and get a sense of, just in anything that you're looking at choosing in your life, or even, something that's been pissing you off, or something that you've been reacting to, or something you've been in judgment of, and just ask, how would I be with this from a space of being? And just get a sense of that, like, oh man, I wouldn't be choosing this shit. And I would choose this for what reason? Okay, my beautiful friends, thank you for being here. I hope this was a contribution. Like I said, Telegram lives tomorrow. I'll see you guys next week. Next week, this live will be a little later because I'll be at the 6th day that we're doing here in Costa Rica. How does it get any better than that? Oh my goodness. And yeah, just thank you. What else is truly possible that you have never considered? I will see you guys next week. Thank you.